And now on the Business Radio X Network, another exciting episode with Jaime Overturf in Connecting Tucson with Jaime.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Connecting Tucson with Jaime Overturf. We are coming to you live on TucsonBusinessRadioX.com in the corporate offices on Broadway of the Stewart Title Studios. We focus mainly on making connections for our community and local business. Today, we have a very special guest in the Stewart Title corporate offices, Paul Kukic. Did I pronounce that correct?
You were perfect on that.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. Well, welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Paul is actually the owner and operator of one of my favorite food trucks, Burgerito. And I have to say, I seriously have developed an addiction of your food over the past few years.
We embrace our stalkers very well.
I'd say I'm a stalker. Yeah, I am a Burgerito stalker.
Love it.
Paul, you've basically lived pretty much from coast to coast, and you're a master baker. So I could safely say food is one of your passions, right?
I'm a passionate foodie.
Oh, I love that term, foodie. Well, you've been in customer service your whole life, and you finally took the plunge to own and operate your own business, Burgerito. And I, for one, am certainly happy that you did, and I'm sure Tucson is as well. So thank you so much for joining me on the show and letting our listeners know a little bit more about you and your business.
Thank you for stocking my truck.
I'm going to use that. Thank you for stocking my truck. Okay. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. Is that okay, Paul?
Perfect.
All right. So, Paul, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background first off.
Well, I am married. I've been married for about 9 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've been living here in Tucson for about 11 years now. I moved here from Denver, Colorado. I lived in Denver, Colorado off and on for about 25 years. And that is where my childhood favorite, what was Denver known as the Mexican hamburger. And that's what the name of the Burgerito comes from, is the Mexican hamburger from Denver, which some people kind of are misconstrued of what Mexican food is, but in Denver they call it Chicano cuisine.
Chicano cuisine. Okay. Nice. Okay. So, why move from Colorado to Tucson then?
Well, baby's mama.
I hear that. Baby mama. So obviously you lived in Colorado. So did you start Burgerito up in Colorado, or did you actually start that here in Tucson?
Well, it's a funny thing is I had been living here for about 3 years.
Okay.
And I had an opportunity to go back to Colorado to visit family and friends and whatnot, and also do the legendary Tough Mudder.
I love mud rides. Sorry.
And it was in the ski resort in Denver over at Beaver Creek.
Okay.
And it was 10 miles long. I had the bumps, the bruises, the mud, the blood, the raspberries, the blueberries all over my body. And
the fruit.
Oh, yeah. Gotta have the fruit. And at the end, I was having my reward of my beer. Mm-hmm. I also had my Mexican hamburger, and I was just like, oh my God, I sure wish I could have this back home in Tucson, where now I live. And this light bulb just popped up. I said, well, why can't I? And so I started utilizing my people that I know in Denver, because that's where all my friends and family are from. And I was able to utilize the people that I know to help me get the taste that I love, so I could be able to start making it for myself in Tucson.
Nice.
And then I was like thinking a little bit deeper. I was like, why not allow everybody to be able to enjoy my childhood favorite? Hence, the Burgerito was born. I tried using the name Mexican hamburger, but the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce felt like it was a racial slur.
Oh, no.
So I had to go back to the drawing board to figure out what exactly a Mexican hamburger is, hence half cheeseburger, half burrito. Oh my goodness, Burgerito.
I love it. I love that concept, Burgerito. Okay. So you obviously didn't always want to own your own business. So, and you knew you wanted to bring that concept to life to Tucson. So why a food truck versus a brick and mortar store?
As a small business, you want to be able to start small. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket just in case it fails.
Okay, that's smart.
And so having a food truck, when I first started the business 7 years ago, I was technically the 22nd savory food truck. Savory represented as a menu from a menu-style restaurant that you would get at a brick and mortar. And since I've been in the business for 7 years, according to the Pima County Health Department, there are now about 194 savory food trucks in Tucson. So there's a lot of competition all around Tucson.
Oh, I can only imagine the competition. So you just decided at that point, brick and mortar just has too much capital and you wanted to start off with a smaller capital and just do the food truck type situation. Okay. Well, as I mentioned before, I'm certainly happy you decided to bring your love of food to Tucson, even if my waistline has decided that it's not so happy, because I do stock your food truck.
My wife feels the same way. She says she gained about 20 pounds as I open up my doors too. So,
well, tortillas are not all, they have a little bit more fat and lard than normal bread, but it's still the best burgerito that I've ever had.
But I will continuously lie to you and say that it's all fat-free.
I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. So now that we're talking about a burgerito, we kind of know what the concept is. Burger, burrito, put them together, burgerito. What kind of products and services does Burgerito Food Truck offer?
Well, the Burgerito Food Truck, it started out 7 years ago with only 4 items. And I wanted to build a store small, and I recognized introducing a concoction in an area that is known for the Sonoran hot dogs, the Tex-Mex, the carne asadas.
You see a Sonoran hot dog on every corner, it seems like.
And introducing a concoction like a Mexican hamburger, or in this case, a burgerito, I found myself kind of spinning my wheels. I was introducing something that people were kind of closed-minded to. So what I had to do is essentially create a menu that what people know.
Okay.
People are familiar with your grilled cheeses, your pulled porks, a variety of different kind of sandwiches that they know. They go with what they know. So my thought process was to create a menu as a one-stop shop for any family of 5. And then once they get familiar and comfortable with the product that we serve, then a lot of people will kind of go outside that bubble and try the burgerito for the very first time.
And for those of you that are listening, try it. Just try it. Listen to that inner voice.
What the burgerito is essentially to get people a way to kind of taste my words in a way.
Okay.
But what it is a 12-inch flour tortilla, refried beans, a 1/4-pound hamburger patty that we just cut in half. And then the texture, like that of a stew almost, is a New Mexico hatch pork green chili over the hamburger patty.
That's
shredded cheddar
right there.
cheese gives you a nice gooey sensation rolled up into a burrito.
It is, like I said, one of the most phenomenal products that I have tried. And I was skeptical. My husband actually was the first to discover you. You might not know this, but Rich was like, "You've got to try this new food truck place." I'm like, "Okay, a food truck? Okay, let's go for it." And he's like, "You got to have the regular burgerito." I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." And I was blown away. Like, oh my goodness. The flavor profile that was coming out of your burgerito was just phenomenal. The hatch green chilies, I wasn't expecting. It was just delicious. And you even hand delivered our first one. I don't know if you know that. But we were
I've done that an awful lot.
Yeah,
in my time.
we just didn't go up to the food truck. We ordered and then you hand delivered it. There was someplace that was sitting out. I thought that was really exceptional.
Curbside service at its best.
I know. Truck side service, curbside service. You do actually have a very diverse menu, and I was surprised when I went there. Most food trucks have a very limited service. I personally have a goal to try everything that's on your menu, but I have yet to get past the burgerito. I think I've had that about 15 or 16 times now. One of these days.
Hence the word stalker.
I know, right? I will actually. But when you have a burgerito, going back to a regular burger or grilled cheese is kind of hard for me because, it's like I can only get this at one place. So I get that there. So obviously, I have my favorite. What's your favorite menu item?
Well, I find that my menu and all the sauces that I create are like music. It just kind of depends on your mood. Mm-hmm. My mood would not always be your mood, so my favorite may not be your favorite. But I will tell you, as we speak, the number one most requested sandwich on our menu is actually a pulled pork grilled cheese sandwich.
Say what?
Pulled pork grilled cheese sandwich. another fusion that I kind of was intermingled. But it's
I've seen the grilled cheese on your your menu board, but I have yet to see. Is that on your menu?
It
the pulled
is.
pork?
It is. It's on
I
a new
never saw
updated
that.
menu. What that entails is
that's why it's new and
Texas
updated.
toast bread, shredded cheddar cheese, our pulled pork that is smoked with applewood and pecan, more shredded cheddar cheese, the topper, and then we grill both sides of the bread.
And my sample is where?
Coming right after this podcast.
All right, I'm holding you to that. I'm just saying, no, I'm hungry.
But many people have sworn to me that this new sandwich is such a phenomenon that they actually acquired a foodgasm.
Love that term, foodgasm. I'm like writing this down as we speak, foodgasm. He can attest to this. So obviously you didn't bring me a sample, so I'm going to have to come and check you out. That actually leads me to my next question. Most food trucks that I see actually have a specific spot that they sit down on, and they're there every single day between certain hours. You don't do that. You actually have kind of what I consider like a remote location. You travel per se. So how can people find you, and like where do you pick, or how do you pick the spots that you do?
Well, that's the beauty of having the food truck is, I mean, if I wanted to be stationary, I would have got a brick and mortar. And so having a food truck gives me the flexibility to have me go to different people instead of not have them all come to me all the time. So people in the Northwest, Marana, Oro Valley, Corona, Vail, Rancho Cerrita, all over Tucson, they know that at least once a month or twice a month I'm going to be in a neighborhood near you. And then, like you, they stock my truck.
We do. We stock it through Instagram and Facebook.
And Twitter.
I don't tweet. Is that what it's called? I don't tweet.
Maybe you'll learn to tweet.
That's that bird one, right? I really should know this. But I really don't tweet. But I do Instagram and Facebook, so I know those.
2 out of 3.
Yeah, there's that, I suppose. All right. So you've been in business for 7 years, and you've got a really good following and reputation. Is there any, I guess, notions in the future of actually getting a brick and mortar store, or are you looking at maybe getting more food trucks? What does the vision look like for 5 years for Burgerito?
Well, my wife gets mad at me all the time because she wakes up every morning and she asks me how I slept, and I tell her I'm tired. I was working all night because I'm constantly creating new things and new menus and new creations. And I do have plans. I'm actually close to pulling the trigger of creating a new food truck that I think will absolutely take Tucson by storm.
Are we going to hear that today?
I cannot tell you today.
Darn.
You'll have to please stand by.
Please stand by and we'll have you back on. How about that?
Perfect.
Well, either way, I can tell you you're doing something right. And actually, that leads me to my next question. You're not doing a brick and mortar store, and you do different areas. Do you ever host parties or events, or do you do catering?
We do. We customize our package that we have depending on where, when, where, why, how many people, and stuff like that. We do graduation parties, birthday parties, retirement parties. We've even done bachelorette parties.
I can see that. No laughing at that.
But yeah, we just go right to the person's backyard, garage, driveway. Sometimes it's a warehouse. Just kind of depends on where it's at, and we show up. We create our passion for our food. And then we leave. We pick up, clean up all the mess, and the only thing you have to worry about is when the next time you can have another burgerito.
Exactly. So that being said, let's say one of my listeners are thinking, they're catering, they'll bring their food truck. Do you have a specific minimum that you need to meet in order to do that? Is there a fee, or do you have to promise a certain number of burgeritos? How does that work?
The way we do it, our prices are designed because we understand that, people have large families. I mean, that's just the way our society is. And the average family is family of 5. So we understand how pricey it can be. So our minimum to be doing catering is 70 people for birthday parties, retirement parties, stuff like that. And what that does essentially is keep our prices exactly how you see them on our menu.
Okay.
So if you want something that is, $4, you get it. You only charge you $4. You want something that's $10, well, I'm going to charge you $10, but you get what you pay for. I don't really like to lean on putting a price on someone's head because that sounds very barbaric.
I really like that. You pay for what you order. So if you order more pricey items, it's going to be more expensive. If you order some less expensive items, it'll be less cheaper, but at least that way you're still getting your name out there. And
we have had people, complain, well, I didn't get full off of $4. Well, you spend $5 or $6, you will get full,
Yeah.
So you do get what you pay for.
I absolutely believe that concept. Of course, my business, that's what I do. But anyways, you're obviously doing something right. Either way, you do some catering, you do some large events. You always have a packed crowd whenever I see that you're going somewhere, be it down at Raytheon or if you're on an offsite event. And they always look happy. They have a smile on their face. So to what do you attribute to your success?
Well,
Why do you think you're so successful?
I really want people to be able to enjoy the ambiance of going to a food truck. There's a food truck frenzy going around nationwide, coast to coast. And there's so much competition out there. And I really want them to be able to enjoy their stay at my store. What we do then is we sing, we dance. Sometimes we keep our clothes on. We entertain our people so that they are entertained. And what it seems like 2 or 3 minutes waiting for the food was actually maybe 5 or 6. So by entertaining our guests, our crowds, it makes their stay enjoyable, entertaining, and they bring their friends so we can entertain more and more people.
Well, I can certainly attest that being a business owner, you have to do something sometimes to entice the crowd and kind of, have them look one way while something's going on the other way to make things happen so they're enjoyable. But I also find the hours can sometimes be taxing. What about you?
The hours?
Yeah, the hours you're working.
Well, when you're an entrepreneur, it is like a Clint Eastwood movie. You got the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, obviously, is the rewards of turning people's frowns upside down, almost turning them into a Toys R Us kid, I guess, in some ways, with the creativity that I've made. But the hours can be pretty strenuous. During the summertime, when you lose all the snowbirds, lose all the U of A students, you lose 180, 200,000 people total. So it gets kind of crazy and really hot and difficult, especially since my food truck does not have AC. And by not having AC, when we have a weather here of 105, 110 degrees, it'll get about 130, 140. So then now Burgerito is almost like Burgerito / Jenny Craig because I'm fattening people up and I'm losing weight.
Hey, that's a good diet plan, right? But I can honestly tell you that the amount of hours that you put in as an entrepreneur is quite a bit. I think I work more hours now for myself than I did when I worked for somebody else. But then again, I also decided to invest in myself because I believe in myself. And, my husband may say something different. Like I might need to be home a little bit more. But yes, I get that.
Well,
Absolutely.
people do think, especially the older generation, they look at it, so categorize it as a roach coach. Mm-hmm. You just set up and you're eating something that was either made 3 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours. But the food trucks in today's society are really glorified kitchens, and there's a lot of behind the scenes work. So I say 75% of the work that I do, I don't get paid for. I only get paid for when I open the doors. So the prep, the cleanup, the cooking, the marketing, all that's entailed behind the scenes to be able to create a food that
the masterpiece
people,
that you create.
Yeah, and then after I'm really tired, I have to be able to put on that happy face and drink a 6-pack of Monsters.
There you go. Oh God, I couldn't drink a 6-pack of Monster. I would be up for days. We need to have a conversation about what you drink in, sir.
That'll be our next show.
Next show. So I imagine there's some specialized training that you need to do prior to opening up a food truck, at least legally. Tell us a little bit about what you have to do to become a licensed food truck handler in Tucson.
Well, there's a lot of things that entail if someone wants to try to become an entrepreneur themselves. Certainly you want to be able to get yourself licensed properly to the city of Tucson or Marana or Oro Valley, wherever you're going. And then you have to create basically a blueprint of a food truck that you're going to be serving. The blueprint is then delivered to the Pima County Health Department. They review it. They do a review plan on it. Usually, it's been a while since I've had to do it, 7 years, but when I did it, it was a lot cheaper than it is now.
I suspect, seeing how they've doubled their food trucks.
Yes. But they do a plan review. They come out and inspect the truck, make sure that everything is going to be safe, make sure that everything is going to be no leaking with gas, no leaking with water, thing like that. You also have to get inspected through the fire marshal, usually Golden Ranch, to make sure that you're up to date with the fire suppression. And the fire suppression itself could run you $7,000 to $10,000 all by itself. So
exactly, you don't want a fire in the food truck.
Right.
Coming from the insurance professional.
But it is quite an investment. So you got to really make sure that you are all in. I know when I first started, my first truck was truly a piece of crap, and I had a vision. And my wife first saw this truck, she didn't ask me. She told me to take it back. And it was worse than the movie of Chef, if anybody's seen that movie, Chef. But again, I had this vision. I made all the necessary adjustments and made sure that the health department was happy, the fire marshal was happy, and off I went. I mean, it's been quite a unique journey. My wife wanted me to do the part-time thing with the food truck and maybe kind of build yourself up a little bit. And I told her, I says, you gotta put all your eggs in this. You either crap or get off the pot.
You gotta make that plunge and say, am I really going to do this? Or going half in and half out as an entrepreneur can be very devastating.
But the rewards that I found was just a year and a half in. I do a lot of mud runs, and we were Team Burgerito, and the Team Burgerito all had white shirts, so we did a before and after.
I've done several mud runs, and I can actually say that that's probably, oh my goodness, I can just see her, I can just visualize it, let's just put it that way.
And it was so cool, is that my wife, she was reluctant to put on a Burgerito shirt, like, this is kind of stupid, whatever, but she was really amazed how many people came up to us. Oh, I love you guys rock, and she goes, wow, people, they know you. And that, at that time, is when she started taking the business and my passion more seriously.
So good. That is so good. Now, I know that in like brick and mortar stores, there's like serve safe programs or classes that you've got to do for like making sure food is cooked properly. Do you do the same types of things in your food truck?
And people who are unfamiliar with the process, yes, we are under the same guidelines as the brick and mortar, taking the same classes the brick and mortars do. However, the brick and mortars, they're inspected maybe once or twice a year. The food trucks, believe it or not, they're actually more safe than a brick and mortar. And especially ones who are always on the go like mine, is because you don't have the rodent problems. You don't have the roaches problem because the truck is always on the run, And that's
I never thought of that. But that's genius.
And it's very, very special for people to be educated that, the trucks are actually more clean and more, what's the word I'm looking for, inspected twice as much as a brick and mortar is.
Well, you know what? That's very interesting. I never knew that all of that went into running a food truck. I had suspected, that you had to take the same classes, but it's very rewarding to know that you guys are inspected and everything else. So it's nice to know, and I'm sure my listeners are learning something as I am. Well, if you ever do open up a brick and mortar, give me a call. I can definitely help you. But, you're obviously a workaholic as well, because you said you work long hours, you didn't sleep well.
I work like a Hebrew slave.
All right. But you do have to have time to decompress. You mentioned some mud runs. So what do you like to do in your free time? When you have it, that is, because I know you don't really have a lot of it.
I'm a big sports fiend, so I enjoy my football. I enjoy my hockey. I love the local sports here in Tucson as well. But yeah, the mud runs that's a big passion of mine. I can't play sports at a level that I had done for most of my life. I've boxed for 5 years. I've played football, semi-pro football for 5 years. So it's taken an awful lot of beating. Plus, I'm I'm old. I'm hitting 50, so you really can't hit that level of playing the level that I've been accustomed all my life. So the only thing that I could find to be able to release that is the mud runs. I could go at my own pace. I see a lot of the youngsters pass me by all the time. Well, that's okay. But it's my opportunity to be able to release. It's my opportunity to be able to get muddy, get dirty, because when I'm at work, I have to be super clean.
Exactly. And I can tell you, I do a lot of mud runs as well. I love mud runs. The last one I did was the Dirty Girl mud run up in Phoenix. And people, I think, also have some misconceptions about mud runs. It's not about just trying to get the fastest time. The people that are there doing that with you are trying to build you up and build that camaraderie and just help you along the way.
It's team play.
And I think that's what kind of shocked me. When I'd first heard it, I was like, people are just going to be like running me over and like pushing me off to the side. That was not the case. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh, they're helping me up this wall? What? I'm getting shocked by this. I did a Spartan. That was rough. But you get the electroshocks on the Spartans. I don't know if you've ever done that, but that was just crazy. So speaking of misconceptions, I was actually prepping for this interview and I spoke to a few of my peeps. Not all were fans of food trucks, but I set them straight on Burgerito and that they needed to check you out. Just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah. But I was wondering, is this like a common theme that's out there, or are there any misconceptions about food trucks that you get all the time besides the roach coaches?
Well, yeah. It's funny you say that. A lot of people automatically assume that because, we're Tucson, we're so close to the border, so many people think that every truck they see is a Mexican truck.
I never would have thought that. No, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so you see a taco truck or a Mexican, they look at me, I'll take a carne asada. I'm like, I have 8 different kinds of meats on my truck, and carne asada is not one of them. So, so that's a big misconception when you don't, you blend in with everybody else, so they automatically assume.
So that being said, how do you combat and overcome these misconceptions in the industry? What do you yourself do, or what does Burgerito do?
Well, first thing I had to do was paint my truck blue.
Blue? Why blue?
Well, most of the Mexican food trucks are white, for one. And I'm also a big Bronco fan. Coming from Denver, so my colors of home of the Bronco lover is orange and blue.
Orange and blue,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Orange, blue, and white, though. There's white in there.
There is some white. There's some white.
So orange. So you painted your truck blue. Is there any orange on it?
There is orange.
The Burgerito logo.
There's a lot of orange in the Burgerito logo. Yes, that's why I did what I did.
Okay, so I see how you're going. So definitely very interesting. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Connecting Tucson with Jaime Overturf and Farmers Insurance, where we focus on connecting our community and local businesses. As your local insurance professional for both personal and commercial lines insurance needs, and a small business owner myself, I know how important it is to make new and lasting connections in your own community. You never know how a connection will create a spark or pull you in a direction you were not even thinking of. If you're a small business owner or involved in a community project and would like to be featured on this show, please give me a call. I'd love to give you my information and see how we can help you. All of my information is on TucsonBusinessRadioX.com. I'd love to hear from you. Today we're talking to Paul Kukic, who owns Burgerito, one of the best food trucks in town. Trust me, just go. If you've not tried them yet, you don't know what you're missing, so go on out there and take a look at them. Paul, we're just talking about some misconceptions that people have about food trucks. And as I mentioned, I spoke to several people prior to this interview to do a little research. So not only did I find that there were some common misconceptions that we spoke of earlier, but there was like mixed reviews of food trucks just in general. Like they've tried them, they were good. They tried them, they were bad. They tried them, they were just mediocre. It seems that this industry as a whole has some varying degrees of not only food, but service. And you have to be on your A game to make it work. So what does it take to be one of the best food trucks in Tucson?
Well, you have the mentality that you are only as good as you were yesterday. So the more you're consistent that you're out and about serving your food, gives you an opportunity to be able to maintain and have that drive of excellence, not just only with the food, the flavor, but also the service. it becomes more like a triangle, food, service, and just flavor. I mean, that's just everybody. There's so many food trucks.
It seems simple, but quite honestly, I've tasted some food trucks that were not that good. But you say it's a triangle: food, consistency, service, taste. Not everybody has it. How do you achieve it? What do you do?
Well, I'm kind of old school.
Okay.
My dad also was an entrepreneur, and I learned a lot of my work ethics and creativity of being an entrepreneur from my dad. He owned 3 liquor stores over a period of 16 years, and the old school way of doing business is mano to mano, face to face. Get to know who's making your food, get to know who's you're taking the money from as far as your customers. Mm-hmm. And you really have to have that certain drive consistently to be able to connect. There are so many different variety of personalities and styles out there that you have to know how to adjust to the person that you're talking to, each person that comes to your truck. Some people are very serious, some people are very corporate. Some people are they're class clowns. So you have to be able to find a way to be able to connect to each one individually. So their food, their service are all driven to be itemized to that person.
I have to agree with you. It seems like Tucson is a little bit different when you're doing business. We are kind of a large city, but with a small town mentality. People, when they're trying to do business with someone, they want to get to know you and kind of know who you are and what you're doing, versus going up to Phoenix, where it's all just business. Do you agree, or do you find something different, like working from Colorado to here? Do you see a difference in Tucson versus Colorado or any other state?
It's a big difference. I've had the pleasure to live in large cities all over the United States, and I find that Tucsonans, they're more personable. They find you, on the side of the road somewhere. They'll stop and help you. There's a lot more personal, neighborly love here than in the big city, for sure.
I happen to agree wholeheartedly. So, what does a typical day on Burgerito Food Truck look like for you? How do you start your day and how do you end your day? What do you do?
Work, 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 and work.
All right. Well, give us a typical day of what you do.
Well, to guarantee the freshness, and that's the most important. I get a lot of my foods, like a lot of restaurants and also food truck owners, from Shamrock or Restaurant Depot, things that are classified strictly for restaurants. I shop there every day. I get my needs for what I know I'm going to be using for that day.
Fresh.
So, yeah, my lettuce, avocados, tomatoes, everything is fresh. So
you shop.
And I usually show up at my events usually about an hour early. And at that time, I dice up my tomatoes, dice up my onions, get my line filled up. And it allows me to be able to get everything done to get that 10 minutes of relief.
Decompress for a second
Just
before
decompress.
that chaos starts.
Right. And when the people come, they bottleneck. They come in herds, for say.
They don't all just they see someone up there and they're like, we all have to go up there. They can't just trickle, right?
That's right. And that's the beauty of our truck is, again, the service. A lot of food trucks, they serve great food or good food, but it takes 10, 15 minutes to get that food. And a lot of places that we hit, like Raytheon, they have time restraints. Mm-hmm. So it's our job to be able to get that extra person on staff to assure that the people who are waiting for the food are only 2 to 5 minutes. And that's key. That's really huge to be able to have that sense of urgency, not that one gear like an hourly employee would have.
Right.
You want to get them to be able to enjoy your food instead of having to choke on it because they have to go back to work.
Yeah, I for one like to chew my food, not swallow it whole. So 100% agree. And obviously, like I said, people love you, and that's part of it. So we spoke a moment ago about your success in the industry, and I always find that with some success comes learning experiences. What would you say is your biggest learning experience when opening and starting your own business? And what do you wish somebody would have told you when you first started?
Well, the one thing I wish somebody would have told me starting a food truck is do not start it right before summertime.
That would be bad, right? Because everybody's gone. Yeah,
everybody leaves, and when you're introducing a concoction as new and fresh as a burgerito, it was me spinning my wheels. I really had to be aggressive to create a strong marketing plan where I had my menus and I was going through all these variety of businesses, and I felt like I was almost becoming a Jehovah's Witness because I was going to so many doors. But I really wish that somebody would have kind of took me under their wing a little bit to kind of show me the ins and outs instead of having such a trial and error. There's a lot of food trucks that were inspired the success of our truck that have gone on to open up their own trucks. And I've done for them what I wish was done to me as far as helping them get events, helping them know how to, prepare for these events, how much prep to do, who to talk to, when to talk to them, the whole 9 yards. So I've tried to be like that in a sort of kind of way, a big brother among a lot of the younger food trucks.
So is there some type of program that maybe you've started to help like new food truck people come in, or is that something where if someone's looking to talk to you, they can? How does that work?
Yeah. I've had a lot of people want to pick my brain a little bit. People have called me. People have emailed me, burgerito at hotmail.com. That's BURGERRITO.
Don't forget the second R.
Don't forget the second R at Hotmail. And I'm always a phone call away. I have no problems assisting those who have the same kind of drive and passion that I have for the past 7 years to help them get their passion up and off the ground.
I think that is so important as a business owner. That's one thing I really love about Tucson. Tucson is really a small community in a big city, and we want to make those connections and help people succeed, because if our community succeeds, we all succeed. We can share the wealth, but if we start to decline, we all start to see the decline. So I really do wish more people like yourself would go out and help those young entrepreneurs and show them the way, because we can't always do it. We're going to have people to come up and come behind us. So I commend you for that. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
So for me, honestly, opening a business was just eye-opening, and I had to plunge in and take the risk to invest in myself, which, I am glad I did, but there were some ebbs and flows and many, many days where I probably worked 18 hours and my husband was like, "Where were you again?" A lot of that, and I missed some time with my son. So that being said, I struggle with the work-life balance. Some owners maybe not so much, but we wear so many different hats as an entrepreneur. We have business owner, HR, payroll, customer service. Like, you have to know it all as a business owner. You don't have the luxury of having a corporate head or entity over you, having structure and different people. So how do you structure your work-life balance, or do you structure it? And if you do, give me some tips, because I need some help. My husband is definitely frustrated.
It's a trial and error. What will work for one person won't work for another. So what has worked for me is patience. My wife has been very, very patient. She understands the severity of the food truck, being an entrepreneur, that for every day you take off, you're technically unemployed. And that's very, very key. So you can't always go on vacation. And you have a lot of leniency to be able to create. But at the same time, people who work for corporations find that they get that paid vacations. Mm-hmm. You and I, as an entrepreneur, when we don't go to work, we don't get paid.
Exactly.
So she understands that more and more now that I'm 7 years into the business.
That's good.
I try to create time so that if I know some of the events of people who are reaching out to me to do different functions, if I know that it's not going to be a profitable event for me, I will refer them to try out different variety of trucks that are out there in Tucson.
Wow,
this gives me the opportunity to be able to go out there for the big fish, I guess you could say, so I can be able to try focusing on more balance with my family life.
That's That's a really good point. Being able to say no to somebody that you know that it's not going to work out for you, even though you'd like to be there and get your name there. If you're not going to potentially make the money that you need to be there, that could be something to set you apart.
Well, it's something that I have to more than most food trucks because I have such a higher overhead than probably 90% of the food trucks out there because I have the 7 different kinds of meats on the truck. I have 8 different homemade sauces of the sandwiches, wraps, salads, vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, keto. I do all the variety of things to meet so many different variety of demands. So when someone is calling me to do, 25, 30 people is going to be there, I'm probably not going to be that truck unless you want to pay per head, which I hate doing.
Yeah, you hate doing it, but also, too, if they really want you out there, that is the option that they have.
You get what you pay for.
You do. You get what you pay for. So I do understand it's important to have balance. I don't always get that. It's easier said than done. So I will work on it. I will work on saying no more, but I have... that word doesn't usually come out of my vocabulary very often.
Well, you're disciplined. You have a certain drive that what makes an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
And you also have that competitive spirit that all you want is a little more than you'll ever get.
Yeah, so true. So we actually touched on this a little bit earlier. There are so many food trucks in Tucson. It is literally one of the most competitive markets. It's doubled in almost 7 years. How do you stay competitive and relevant with so many food trucks out there?
Well, there is so many fantastic talent out there. You always have to look to create to stay ahead of the game. One of the things that I have that's worked for me is because I have such a strong, solid following on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
You utilize social media quite a bit.
What I do when I use my social media is I'm always announcing new create items that I'm putting on the menu, and it keeps people in anticipation of what's Burgerito going to come up with next.
So your new item is?
I have a couple of them. The newest one I launched about 2 weeks ago. It's an actual East Coast cold cut sub. There is not a food truck here in Tucson that are actually doing cold cuts. And I find that very, very odd because people want to be able to eat something that's cool and refreshing when it's 110, 115
versus
degrees.
Hot. Exactly.
So it's a true East Coast sub. It's mortadella, hot capicola, salami, and smoked ham. Lettuce, tomato, onion, some Italian seasoning, some olive oil, vinegar, and then one of my choice of sauces, normally a Dam Ranch, which is like a tint of spice in our homemade ranch.
Well, I'm very interested in that. In case you didn't know, I actually hail from the East Coast, Maine, so I know all about those
So
cold
you'll be
cuts.
my biggest critic.
I will be your biggest critic. I lived on the East Coast for a while, and I got it in that white wrapped paper with everything, and I remember those. So I might actually have something new that I will try instead of the regular Burgerito.
The newest sandwich I'm launching here in about 2 weeks, it's similar to what the Italian sub is, only this one is going to be on a brioche bun, which is like a soft, chewy bread, semi-sweet. And it has the same meats as the Italian bread, only I add bacon to this sucker. The capicola, mortadella, salami, smoked ham, with provolone cheese with 2 stacks. And then I grill it. And then I grill and toast the bread. It's truly a phenomenon.
Well, now I have my work cut out for me. I'm going to have to
thinking
figure
about naming.
My producer's over there salivating. I can see it. He's like,
Well, living in the East Coast myself for a number of years, I'm almost thinking about narrowing it down to 2 different names for this sandwich.
maybe you should put that onto social media on how they should name it.
Maybe we should name it. Yeah, I'll put a post of the picture because I always have a couple pictures.
Name this.
The 2 ones that I personally really like is because I have so much weird names on my menu. This one here, I'm looking at either how you doing or forget about it.
I like the forget about it. Let's do it. I want to go up to your window and be like, I want to order the forget about it. I can already see that right now. That's how it's going to happen. So obviously we already know running your business is hard work. Not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Let's just be frank on that piece. It takes money, connections, and the know-how to run your own business. And so many fail within the first 2 years. I've seen so many businesses start up and so many businesses leave. You've stuck around and you've stayed the course. How did you financially and mentally prepare for entrepreneurship? And I mean, we don't have a guaranteed paycheck or insurance like other people
you really
do.
don't.
So how did you prepare?
Well, since I've been in the industry of 7 years, again, I've told you earlier that there's about 194 savory food trucks. In that 194, there's been an average of 12 to 17 food trucks going out of business every year. So it's a very tough and challenging. You have to know how to be able to adjust your economics. You have to understand the business plan of what the P&Ls, the profit and losses. You have to really watch that what you buy takes away from your bottom line.
Mm-hmm. But you can't sacrifice quality.
No, you really can't sacrifice quality, but you have to be able to understand that if you do, say, $1,200 in sales and you're bragging about it and your food cost was $900, well, that's nothing to be proud of.
You made $300. And not even that, because there might be some labor that's included in it.
And there's a lot of things that people don't recognize on a food truck, that there is the food cost, there is the labor, but then there's also the propane for the truck. There's the gas for the generator.
That's good idea.
There's the gas for the truck to get there. So there's a lot more behind the scenes than just opening up the doors and serving good food.
Exactly. All right. Well, we are getting close to the end here. And I just have actually one last question for you, Paul. You clearly love what you're doing. And what do you like best about owning Burgerito and owning your own business?
The best thing I like about owning Burgerito is it's becoming a household name. It's fun that when I'm with my daughter, we're walking around or doing stuff like that, and people will come up to me and go, "Hey, Burgerito!" And my daughter will go, "Dad, you're pretty famous." And I'm like, "Honey, I'm not famous. Just they know Burgerito. They don't even know my first name."
It's Paul.
But it's really great to create a name and the energy and the flair that I have consistently. It has its drawbacks. You work like a Hebrew slave, but you have to see the rich rewards. And basically, as an entrepreneur, you have to keep your eyes on the prize.
I 100% agree on that one as well, as always. So, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like our listeners to know about you or Burgerito?
Well, now there's a lot of talent out there, and I just recently found out about 6 months ago that the creativity that I've put into this menu having such a large diversity that the menu is now officially the largest and most diverse menu of any food truck in the entire Western United States. That's Texas, California, up to the Canadian border.
Wow.
So what that means is 9 times out of 10, if you can't find nothing to eat off this menu, you probably weren't that hungry to begin with.
I love that. I can honestly tell you, I always go there for the Burgerito, but I'm really interested in this new cold cut sandwich of yours and the forget about it. We'll see how. See, I've officially named it. You've heard that first on Tucson Business Radio X. We've just named Burgerito's new sandwich. But in all honesty, please check Burgerito out. They're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Burgerito, check them out. That is Burgerito with 2 R's. So BURGERRITO.
For those who hooked on phonics, does not work for you.
There's 2 R's. But yes, honestly, well, that is actually all we have time for today on Connecting Tucson with Jaime here at the Stewart Title Studios or corporate offices. I apologize. If you like the show, please let us know. You can get to know a little bit more about Paul and Burgerito by going to TucsonBusinessRadioX.com and click on Connecting Tucson with Jaime, or go check out his websites. As always, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and make a new connection. You never know where it might lead. Until next time, keep on making unique connections, Tucson. Love you.